Skidanga Namaskar. Mornav DC Gunia, me having youth service coordinator in Sata, Sourashtra Association mo. At Aski Avi joined Gatanga Juku Santosh Juku Dhanu. Me havino in the healthcare panel Lavino or youth Juku interest Kali in La Pusea. They healthy me mean la organized career. Juku Pilal Lam youth Satana Juku healthcare. Mainly la flyers करता la organize करता questions पूरा मुझे pre draft करता तला पूरा चुकु help कर दिया so आस्के दंगा मी मुझे thank you संगना la youth चुकु चुकु coordinate करें चुकु help कर रहा से चुकु interest खंडी कर रहा से so in the agenda camera we'll start off with a quick intro association intro the other youth activities intro the pre-recorded or youth asi कर दिया the other we have three great speakers welcome to all three speakers. Moderators, any youth satta, they will actually drive the questions again moderation. So first speaker we have Divya Apia, nurse anesthetist. Second we have Ranjani Panda, optometrist, and then third we have Ganesh Mukundu. He's a scientist, biopharma satta. So and then we'll open up the panel for everybody, like 30-45 minutes more. So that's the agenda. Let me start off with a quick welcome intro, association with you. So this was done by Shruti Saluka, one of our youth volunteers.
Askitanga namaskar. Morana Shruti Saluka, mi San Jose, California msata. Mi wanda Sourashtra Association Youth Volunteer gansata. Our Sourashtra Association was a non-profit corporation. La corporation Sourashtra community in North America and Canada set askitanga chachi one days kananata khanam karriyo. Ela varriya mi our Sourashtra Adayalam, Bhasha, culture, Samskriti preserved kirwai for attasata and avanjari generations through common interest. Americam, Canadam, aski jivaria samugam menkano kin aura aski like air uji horaria aura peranuk palkar menata adigalam had sori janata hana aura jivaria vidam kalali ami aski danus ontes menata monnu avuna menarias our association vision. Ami aura Sourashtra Adayalam Bhasha culture Samskriti preserve kerata kuchi jukku events and activities association really chalta kariya telama mukkiyam hoya elapura language and culture poltam cultural heritage classes and Sourashtra literacy course member and benefits doctor second opinion yoga and fitness project our association really mukkiyam chalta kariya on the vishayam youth activities telapati aditya ata sanganjarcha jukku dano askitanga
Askitanga namaskar. My name Aditi Swami. Me 8th grade chodarte. Me Charlotte and Simum Jivarte. Me youth volunteer gonsete. Our Sourashtra Samugam Pillanuk Aski Chedin Polguna many our Sourashtra Association Re Youth Network Hamam Kedia. Atta Wanta was to Horia. Anga Ubaya Korea son leadership kin volunteering skills. Sikata Kuchi events Chato Keradia. P. Elamum Charata. Mogon, Novo Singadin updates. Meet Ramonu Haudia Chambuai. The meetings organized Karata, Watches Karata, many Juku first hand experience Abbey. To the communication organization skills develop Hoi. Why Samum to the free timuk, Avi to Mikam Keruai, Juku flexible Gunrai. Ami Juku activities illa Vosu Kaleta Seta. Tilaga now Miato Sanganjarte. Out of Youth Volunteer Suk Ami Volunteer Service Hours Daria. Speakers Tirisum, Youth Spotlight, Middle High School Outstanding Achievers, Meet Up with National Chess Championship Harshit Babu, Professional Career Planning, College Professor Shared Research and Insights in Engineering Technology and Transit, Mr. Rajkumar, PhD, upcoming interview with Vice recording release, Army Private First Class and Early Engineering Major, Summer Gampun, coding classes, July 2nd through 24th, Saturday and Sunday afternoons, youth fun meet and greet with games, chess competition, college and career guidance, Anga Sourashtra Youth Discord group sete, Anga Sourashtra Youth Instagram melli sete. Motanu Guante Visham Sangus, to be melli out a Nana Hodam Singadi volunteering Kartavel to the Kamumbi Company Matching Ruvai Association then. In the Vata Karta opportunity, a Bea Mogujuku Santosh Laveres, Askitanga Jukudanu.
Okay. Juku, thanks, Aditi and Shruti. La intro karta let's start off first speaker. It's going to be Divya Apia. So yeah, take it away. Me control Tirasindra. Take it on, Divya. Very very warm welcome for having our first healthcare panel. Thanks.
Yes, thank you everybody. Maranav Divya. Me New York Jilla Sata. Me Bay Area California Horita and Atta January me New York Mavita. So initial slide goes on the timeline madri me kai karita kodko chodirta. So maybe if you have questions karesi luku to me this why. I graduated from USF, which is the University of San Francisco in San Francisco. In 2016, I graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. Me Chodre Hatulu Somerville me nursing aide काम करता है, a research intern काम करता है, and also a student nurse extern in Houston, Texas at MD Anderson Cancer Center. Those jobs, some unpaid, some paid, but you could experience at Bayamogo. And that made finding a job as a registered nurse pretty easy for me because mora school chokot schools and I worked hard to gather such experience as well. So me graduate kitino me Los Angeles moved करता and there me UCLA Ronald Reagan Medical ICU काम करता दिवसु. The Hajata me Samuel Merritt University Jodhpur for a master's in science of nursing, specifically nurse anesthesia. So the Jodi me license karita as a certified registered nurse anesthetist, which is someone who performs anesthesia. And me first Kaiser Hospital in काम करता California no आता me NYU Langone करता January. Madhiluku and a picture madri sata one hanagan sata, but it shows what kind of things I do. I work in a mostly operating room, and I have you can see a patient is lying down, and I basically give anesthesia to help patients go through surgery, which can be very scary, very a large a big moment in their lives, and to get them comfortable, whether that be giving them sedation or giving them pain medicine to safely get through surgery is my job. I also work with pregnant moms during labor. I give them the epidurals. I also work in the C-section operating rooms. So that is what I do now. But to get to this point, I needed to work as a nurse. I needed to go to my master's program in nurse anesthesia, and now this is what I do. In the right side of this slide, lots of information, but basically it's more in detail what to expect in this career pathway. So in high school, I tended to like more science classes, so I took a lot of science honors, anatomy and physiology, AP biology, and honors chemistry, a lot of challenging courses, but I liked science, so that is kind of where I tended to put a lot of my focus. So I always knew I wanted to work with patients. I wanted to work with in the medical field. And then once I got into my nursing career, I took a lot of pharmacology classes, critical care nursing classes, pediatrics. I work with kids as well, and also obstetrics, which means laboring moms, so moms who are pregnant. And so during this program, you work hard. You work most of the time in a hospital. You get very used to what a hospital setting looks like. You get used to working with patients hands-on. This career is great if you're good at reading textbooks and learning from textbooks, but even better if you are great in bedside manner, how you work with people, professionalism. During school, I was part of nursing clubs. I had a lot of leadership positions. Also, it's important to give back to your community and do a lot of volunteer work. So, like working in food drive, blood draws, de la madre, extra work I did during undergraduate. The Hajadu, I worked hard in the ICU. The pathway I took into the ICU because Mokalai me higher studies kenda minlawaya. So in the intensive care unit, I worked for 2 years. That was very exciting. Obviously, not for everybody. Then I went to do my master's in nurse anesthesia. But dusra jugu other master's programs at this. So I listed all of them. Some I know more than others because I have friends who went into that career pathway, but the one I bolded, nurse anesthetist, is what I chose to do. So yeah, next slide. Okay. Next slide shows a lot of different things, but in general, kaga mi nursing choose get at them and me some points. So first, you're kind of the one who is the patient's advocate, meaning you are the one that tend to be the most closest to the patient in terms of giving them a voice for what they want, what kind of care they want, what's bothering them, what is their priority, and you help them voice that to the rest of the medicine team, rest of the surgical team. And if you know anybody who's ever been in a hospital, it's not easy. And you have so many people taking care of you, and it can get overwhelming. And as a nurse, you are someone who helps simplify some things and being that caring person that you are. Also, that comes with a lot of responsibility and liability. And so you are responsible for a lot of things as a nurse, similar to a doctor as well. But I think I listed this this table because I think I want to mention, I chose nursing because I wanted to take care of patients, but I could have become a doctor as well. And I think this our community, our Indian community, really stresses how amazing it'll be to have someone in the family become a doctor. And I think that that was kind of stressed on my career choices as well. And I really did a lot of research on what would be best for me. And this is what I looked at. I kind of looked at how long it takes to finish school, and how many hours a week would I end up working once I graduate from school. And so this is, don't quote me on any of these numbers. It's a very rough draft of what it looks like. But, I graduated pretty early from nursing school. I graduated nursing school at 21 years of age, worked for a few years, and then went back to school and graduated from my master's at 26. So, total of 4 years of undergrad and 2 years of master's. And now I work a pretty healthy lifestyle where I only work 40 hours a week, and it's all hourly pay. So any extra hour, even 15 minutes extra, I get paid for my time. And so I feel valued, and I feel like I have a balanced lifestyle, which was important to me, especially when I have other hobbies that I want to grow into. On the right side is the map of the United States, obviously, and it kind of gives you an idea of what the pay might be like in every state as a registered nurse. As you can see, on the lower end is about 60K, but on the higher end is 120, and you can see that states like California and Hawaii, states that Juguminkan, Junamilavaria is going to pay you probably the most because of the cost of living. But in general, it is a very stable career. It's a wonderful choice if you're thinking of it. And I'm very satisfied with my career choice. Thank you.
Okay, asking I got us good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I got us.
Okay.
Thanks,
Okay.
Divya.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so Moranao Ranjani, Niavina at the optometrist consent. So just on the left hand side, just a moga, what a background, moga, what a education, Marimita list kar them. So 2015 me moga undergraduate degree karite. So me UT Austin chodite. There is Bachelor of Science and Arts in Human Development and Family Sciences karite. Tha also moga last year of college when the job start karite, vision therapist job. So that in about 2 years gonna meet the kam karite at the optometry center for vision therapy. So yeah, काम करा था रस मुल्ला optometry interest आवता है काम इनदी me होटली हुंदी था optometry में just glasses contacts the money stuff for money so इत्ता job काम करा था मुकरे so okay optometry अंगु जुगु different specialty पूरा से so initially me apply करा था me vision therapy करना मनी वंडा गोलम apply करी था so last year 2021 me moga doctor of optometry finish karite the Rosenberg School of Optometry me chodite Tharadana just this year July me mo residency finish karite so moga residency avina ocular disease and ocular and refractive surgery that Virginia wanda referral center me karite so currently me there's wanda job except kari tera mi kaam karan jata hai next year me fellowship complete karat the plan karat so in general just educational requirements so 4 years undergrad really major not get thoda maybe like biology no science no chemistry it's not mandatory not obviously helpful gun high but really any major chulwai as long as you do the pre-optometry requirements so me chodatal that the requirements were same as pre-med so same as pre-med requirements but additionally optics or physics 1 and 2 chodana and anatomy and physiology mili extra gun chodana hete pre-medum that the requirement hunda the at least me college so after that optometry school 4 years every school what different curriculum hai but moga school kisa hunda taminadi first 2 years is strictly didactic so clinicum hunda jina just all classroom learning third year kind of half and half so half the time class lab half the time ang school clinicum patients on the fourth year is purely clinic. So the fourth year rotations, then specialty rotations, usually 2 or 3 months at a time. So the year different specialty exposure. So fourth year actually tavaras me when the ocular disease rotation karite. So tavaras mo ocular disease juku interest avi taramama residency ketna mani mo idea better. So 4 years fourth year all specialty rotations or different rotations the 3 board exam basket no so first 2 of written exam third year practical so first year of more general knowledge money so like full body anatomy physiology full body pharmacology pathology disease optics so everything general gun at the first exam second exam more specific to clinic so more of diagnosing and managing so case money then that the diagnose get no treatment follow up all of that kind of stuff the last board exam of in person North Charlotte G Flake the GSK clinical skills get no when the evaluator sangari so then optional is residency and fellowship so residency obviously I think it's a good option me residency karite so the residency different specialties so ocular disease kitawai ocular refractive surgery low vision vision therapy, specialty contact lens, pediatrics, or primary care. And then fellowship, also an option. Typically people residency get out the fellowship get in. Next slide. Okay, so a little bit about what I do. Me get optometry is really different than what most people expect optometry is. So me college hatal moga friend optometry school apply karan jite tavel molaves titero boring job, of course choka job, but kind of boring kachi just stub them glasses prescription prescribe no that the very interesting and love many mula horite. But of course through school I learned there's lots of different specialties. So me when the tertiary care referral center me kam get at this. So no primary care, no secondary care, really amis kind of the end of the line people mari. So that different disease, emergencies, and perioperative care, so pre-operative and post-operative, all the care outside the surgery. Patient referred from other optometrists, physicians, PAs, whoever, just other healthcare providers. Most of our patients are referred. Thoratenu self-refer kliyaban, but most of the patients are referred from other healthcare. So I also co-manage refractive and cataract surgeries as well as all ocular surgery. So corneal surgery and transplant, glaucoma surgeries, retina surgeries, oculoplastics reconstructions. So not only disease, but all the care outside surgery cases. So everything but the surgery, essentially. Also, just because juku disease sara langal, oftentimes amis thora systemic diagnosis mili amis find kari amis make karan. Kamanadi, obviously the eyes are attached to the body. So body kaidi when the disease, kaidi when they shoot hit, thoravel first time, first symptom or sign I am dekai. So juku neurological things, just a huge list of things just in Moga residencies me diagnosed at the musidis. So yeah, so it's definitely very, very different than most optometrists you might have seen. And then starting July of next year, me laser procedure me at the muse. So every state scope pro different kantai, but me Virginia practice at the langal, me that laser procedures me kerwai. So basically lasers for glaucoma and post cataract. So just as some reasons to maybe consider optometry. Usually, chokad good work-life balance high. So, usually typical 9 to 5, 40 hours or less, no overnight, no, nothing like that. However, me set the fieldum, that would change way kachi me thoravel on call way. So on call 24/7 me call kadna emergency hit jano tatamani. But typically mogamani field he minute that hana. And also juku different specialty set then each specialty juku different kantai. So me kerate is really, really different from low vision, which is really, really different from specialty contact lenses. So within the field, almost everything is its own career. Residency is optional. So like medical school, jet residency keri hona. So 4 years undergrad, 4 years medical school, have 4 years residency. So residency well obviously to go full pay about the jinna. So that the maybe keep in mind if you're wanting to be making money more quickly, if that's a concern. And then also just room for growth. Obviously every job skills grow within it high, but also your role. Most healthcare you can mentor residents, mentor students, so that the money get away. Also the private practice open get in, or a corporate franchise like that America's Best, what else, lens crafters, that the money stuff with branches pura karitui, you can even be business minded with it too. And then salary, usually people are curious. So me research karatal, it said median is about 140, 141. And most people, even straight from graduation, can make this. So it's not like, 2 years kam the median salary of bay mari juna. Low range 90. Also, again, depending on how you practice and depending on what specialty, I mean, it can be upper 100s to more than 200. Oh, and then we'll have contact information Tavisi, so you can take a picture or screenshot, and you can contact me if you have questions later.
And Juku, thank you, Anjani. We'll now proceed to Ganesh. Ganesh Mukundu, please take note.
Thanks, DC, and thanks, Divya and Ranjani. It was great to hear about your background and what you guys do. You know, and I'll start with my career journey. It's slightly different than what you heard from Divya and Ranjani. So, more now, Ganesh Mukundu. I'm currently the head of cell therapy, clinical pharmacology, and modeling team at Takeda Pharmaceuticals. So my role is as a clinical pharmacologist. I help designing clinical trials, evaluating new medicines in patients, how it works. What is the right dose we have to give it to the patient? Is it safe? Is it efficacious? So we work as a team in the industry to develop these medicines. So to start off my background, I finished my bachelor's in pharmacy from Madurai, Tamil Nadu. Went on to do a master's in pharmacy. So the B Pharm, as we call in India, is similar to PharmD, except that it's a 4-year course without a clinical rotation. So in PharmD, it's typically 5 years, but you learn most of the subjects similar, whether it's organic chemistry, pharmacology, pharmacokinetics, mathematics, and so forth. So after finishing my bachelor's, I did a master's, which was more focused on drug design and development. And then so that involved doing lab-based work, synthesizing compounds, and then testing in animals. So the other two, once I finished my master's, which was about 2 years, I joined a company called Lambda Therapeutics as a clinical research associate. So this was a role where I was designing clinical trials in healthy volunteers to see if the product performs similar to another reference compound. So all of the initial role helped me where I have to go in terms of my career. So up until my just going a step back at high school, all I knew is that I had to go into medical field. I knew I did not want to be an engineer. I want to go into medical. I tried to get into medical school. I failed. I couldn't get into medical school, so that led me to getting into pharmacy school. So I didn't have a long-term vision on where I'll end up. I didn't. If I look back, I wouldn't have thought I'll be doing what I'm doing right now. But after my master's and doing my initial work at Lambda, and then I went on to work as a senior scientist at Ranbaxy Pharmaceuticals, again doing more clinical trials, testing in healthy volunteers. So after about 3 years, I felt that in order to grow in the pharmaceutical industry, I had to pursue my PhD. So I quit my role in India, came to United States, did a PhD at University of Cincinnati in the pharmacy school, focusing on pharmaceutical sciences. So the focus of my research was involving testing drugs in cells. So you grow the cells, see if the cells are metabolizing the drug. I also went on to do a clinical trial in breast cancer patients to test if tamoxifen, one of the breast cancer agents, does it work well. So during my research, I also was teaching PharmD students. So I'm very well familiar with the PharmD curriculum and the opportunities that typically people can go into after finishing PharmD, whether it's as a retail pharmacist, clinical pharmacist, or going to industry. So there are various opportunities there. But for me, again, I never wanted to be an academician, so I wanted to finish my PhD and move on to industry. So I went to Pfizer, which was where I started my industry career back. So started in the industry, took a break, went to PhD again, started back in Pfizer in San Diego. I was an individual contributor initially, working in project teams where we were testing new drugs in patients for cancer, ranging from breast cancer, pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, and heme malignancy. So I'm really proud of that. Some of the drugs that we worked on are in the market now. So I worked as an individual contributor, then started managing team, became an associate director. After about 6 years, I got a nice opportunity to come to Boston. And I joined AstraZeneca as a director, again, leading a team of clinical pharmacologists. So you can see, within the US, there are two sectors, either it's West Coast or East Coast. That's where most of the pharmaceutical companies are located because of the academic institution. For example, in Boston, most of the big pharma, whether it's Novartis, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Takeda, they all are located here mainly to draw the skill set from MIT and Harvard. Nevertheless, so after about 6 years, I then moved on, which is at my current role as a senior director and head of the group here. So the goal of my team and the goal of a clinical pharmacologist is always trying to move the products from discovery into the clinical and into the market. So it is this type of roles are for somebody who's interested in developing new medicine, but also has an aptitude for pharmacology, aptitude for always learning and working well in the team. Next slide, please. Again, I'll give you a very high-level overview of drug discovery and development, just to give you a flavor of what type of role you can envision going into an industry. So typically, to develop a product, there are multiple phases. The drug discovery, which is where you identify a target, whether modulating the target helps in reducing the disease. Then you identify compounds that hit the target, which is in preclinical. You test that in animal studies to see if it's safe and efficacious. Once you have that data, you then go into clinical trials, which is the middle part, which are divided into phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And then you do clinical trials in patients. You generate this data and then submit it to FDA for approval. So very high level overview. What's more important is it takes about 10 to 15 years to take a drug all the way from discovery to up to the market phase. And then it takes about $1 billion. So there are so many drugs that fail and only a few of them go into the market. But then what I wanted to highlight here is that there are multiple career opportunities for individuals with various background. Typically, when you think about what are the career options, people usually think about either it's clinical or medical roles. But the next slide, I'll show you that there are multiple opportunities. So as I mentioned, if you stay with me on this. On the slide where it starts from discovery research, where you identify what the target is, then you go on to animal trials, preclinical research, then you go on to project management, which is not a non-scientific, it's more of a non-scientific with managing the projects, and then clinical development, where you have people like us, clinical pharmacologists, MDs, clinicians. There are quantitative computational people as well, statisticians. You have regulatory affairs, medical affairs. Again, in medical affairs, you have individuals with MD. The role there is to liaise between R&D and external physicians. Then you have roles for marketing, sales, for people who are really into communications, who can work really well with people. There are roles in business development where you try to work with creating deals for mergers and acquisitions, buying product from different companies. There are roles for engineers and manufacturing to build the infrastructure, to build the labs. The roles for software engineers to create various software tools for analyzing the data, creating systems to capture the data. There are opportunities for individuals who are going to management consulting, McKinsey's. There's also opportunities for people with law degree where they can go into patent and making sure that the patents are valid for the products that we develop. And then obviously recruiting, which is a huge field within every pharma company. So the whole industry can be lumped into either a field-based, office-based role or a lab-based role. If you click once. Yeah, and then you can see the roles entail in R&D, but operations, commercials, and so forth. If you click a couple of more times, so you see here. So you have R&D, manufacturing, data analysis, and then you can lump them everything into science versus non-scientific career. And individuals with various degrees are part of these industries: bachelor's, master's, PhD, PharmD, PharmD, PhD, MD, MD, PhD, law, MBA, and many more. Similar to the roles in pharma and biotech, you can find opportunities in FDA, Food and Drug Administration, where they evaluate the packages, the data packages that sponsors submit to ensure that the drug can be approved or not. Similarly, in academia, you can go into generating new scientific innovations. You want the next slide, please? So here I would like to touch upon what are the competencies and skills typically that we look for individuals when they want to join the organization. Obviously, scientific skills varies from various degrees. When you think about biology, it could be molecular biology, cell biology, etc. Chemistry, it could be organic chemistry, analytical chemistry, synthetic chemistry, pharmacology, again, it could be pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics. So it is a field where you study how drugs work, what does the drug do to the body, and what does the body do to the drug. Pharmacists who finish PharmD can also join in various roles, either in medical affairs or in regulatory affairs, or also as a clinical pharmacologist after they do some fellowship. MDs, MD PhDs can come as clinical leads. People who are into statistics and quantitative mathematics, they can come into mathematic modelers, engineering background. So in my team, we have individuals with chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, but they have done some fellowship in pharmacology or quantitative analysis. In addition to all the soft scientific and technical skills, what is more important is the soft skills, the communication, how you are able to articulate, how are you able to present, can you synthesize complex information and communicate that to non-scientific people, and are you able to work well as an individual or as part of a team? Do you manage conflict very well? Can you critically think about a problem and come up with creative solutions? Do you have growth mindset? What I mean by growth mindset is always constantly learning, because science changes every day, and we need individuals who have this aptitude of looking at journal articles, synthesizing that information. So somebody who's very, very flexible and multitasking. So oftentimes when we interview candidates, we look at technical skills, but also how they perform well in terms of communication. All of that will be taken into consideration when we make the hiring decisions. So we hire a lot of student workers, internship, postdocs in pharma, and I've listed few opportunities that you can consider for BS and master's students. You can go into what is called graduate programs in various specializations, and typically you can find these in companies like AstraZeneca and Pfizer, where it's a 2-year course, and they get paid very well. So after bachelor's and master's, even for the 2 years, they get paid about 65 to 70K, and you get to spend about 6 to 8 months in 3 different departments learning about drug discovery and development. So it's a rotational placement. After about 2 years, you can either pursue a career in the pharma, or most often people go back to medical school or go back to pursuing a PhD. We also have for PhD students what is called summer internship, which is a 3-monthly paid internship where they work with the scientists on a particular research project. For last 3 years, we have done it mainly remote, and they come and spend with the scientists, and they're able to publish the research they do, they get awards. Similarly, for postdoctoral fellows, people who have finished PhD and MDs, if they want to specialize in certain skill set, they can do fellowship for a year or two and then go on to pursuing their career. Just to give a highlight of the opportunities available, because oftentimes I feel that not everybody is aware of these opportunities, and you might think that only certain career can go into pharma, but this gives you maybe an eye opener in terms of various opportunities. So not only in pharma companies, but even in FDA, you can find similar internship and fellowship. So explore these links. You can find more opportunities, but I'll stop here and we can go into Q&A if there are any questions on opportunities.
Yeah, we can open up the floor right now for questions. I think Atavin youth questions are way formulate. So I would let them take on first. Ritesh, you want to start off with your questions first?
So, Moga, first question said, Divya said, Could you give us an overview for the procedure for administering administering anesthesia for your patients?
Yeah, good question. So it varies really. Kaya madre procedure, how healthy is the patient, what's the age of the patient. It really depends on that. The most common is called general anesthesia. Let's say my patient has a big tumor growing in their small intestines, and the doctors need to remove this tumor, obviously. And it's a sick patient, heart's not working very well. I'm using terms that it can easily be understood, but that can be challenging because under anesthesia we can stress the heart out and the lungs and the brain by giving anesthesia that can influence blood pressure and heart rate, and blood pressure can go down and that can stress the heart out and that can cause further damage to an already sick body. But what we would do is called general anesthesia, which is give medicine through the IV, which makes them completely unconscious and stop breathing. When they're unconscious and they're not breathing, we place a breathing tube and we breathe for them through a mechanical ventilator. And we also give anesthesia gas to keep them asleep. While they're asleep, we give them medications for pain management. Once the procedure is done, we stop all the medications, we get them awake, and we take the breathing tube out. If everything goes well in terms of blood loss, in terms of blood pressure, and general health of the patient at the end of the procedure. Like I said, if the patient's really sick, then and losing a lot of blood, then our responsibility would be to give more blood, would be to give medications, the right medications that would help their heart and their blood pressure while protecting their heart, their kidneys, their lung function, and we look at a very holistic approach as well. Another case could be easy as a kid broke their arm or a teenager broke their ACL while skiing. For those type of procedures, we can do something called a nerve block, where you inject numbing medicine through a little needle, injecting numbing medicine around the nerve that supplies sensation and pain to their knee. And so that can be done under ultrasound, which is a machine that is kind of like a camera. And so they are numb in their leg and do not need something like general anesthesia. They need maybe some calming medications through their IV, but they're still breathing on their own, so they're not freaking out, but their knee is completely numb, which allows surgery. So that's the amazing part of my profession, is that not every day looks the same, not every procedure anesthesia looks the same. I can go on and on about all different types, but those are kind of the two common types.
Want a question sete. What are some common problems you face when you do your job for Divya Bay?
Yeah, common problems. I think you work in a large team with everybody that has different priorities. My surgeon will have different priorities. My nurse will have a lot of priorities. And a lot of times in high times of stress, you have to work well with different personalities. And so sometimes it can get really hard when you are not able to communicate your concerns very well, or not able to receive someone else's concerns very well. And you can get into a lot of conflict. And so being someone who does very well in stress and conflict resolution is really important. I think everybody else in this panel can attest to that being someone who's really good at communicating, someone who's professional and works well in a team of new people and can easily gain someone's trust is really important. A lot of it is soft skills. Someone taught me that you can teach a monkey how to do a procedure, like sticking a needle in someone's body, but you can't teach a monkey to work well in a team, have good leadership skills and communication skills, and work with different personalities. So that is the part that is hardest for me to even teach my students as well.
On to a question say, so like, कौन इतनी difficult patients regarding like deal ke life. So like when patients are like scared of like anesthesia or like something like that, do you have that often?
Yeah, a lot of my patients are scared of anesthesia. They're scared that they may sleep and never wake up. So it's a valid concern, and I think one is to validate that concern. That makes sense. This is a unknown environment, a very strange environment for you, and yeah, they haven't probably slept very well overnight. They also haven't eaten in at least 8 hours, and they're probably hungry as well. So first is to validate their concerns. That makes sense that they're nervous. Two is how you present yourself as someone who's confident in what they do. I use a lot of distraction and humor to get them relaxed. While I'm doing an IV or getting them set up on the operating room table, I distract them about their life, ask them questions that are not even related to the procedure, because I find that to be a very powerful technique. But that comes because I am very confident in what I'm doing and I can multitask. While I'm getting ready to put them off to sleep, I can have a conversation and make them laugh and maybe say a joke or something. So in a way, it's intentional, but they see it as kind of a loving character, a loving person, a caring person who's a person behind all of what they do. That's kind of how I help patients who are really nervous.
For you, I have a question for you, Divya Bay.
Sure.
Do you have any interesting stories from your job?
Oh, tons. I don't want to freak people out as well. A lot of my stories have to do with, a lot of funny stories too. It's true that my patients come out of anesthesia saying the funniest things, spilling their secrets. They're like basically high and intoxicated on anesthesia. So it's really funny seeing them wake up. It's actually really rewarding too to have them wake up and be so thankful that everything went well and they're thanking everybody in the room. It's a very rewarding job, but I enjoy my job a lot because of that. And I tell a lot of the funny stories too. There's a lot of scary stories too where someone's, almost dying. And you have lots of help coming in, and it may or may not go well, but at the same time, you learn so much. And so when I share stories, I try hard to know the comfort of people when it comes to the operating room, blood, death, high stress situations.
Okay, so we'll give Divya a break real quick, and so Ganesh, we have a question in the chat for how to persuade somebody who doesn't believe in vaccines. Can you talk on
It's
that?
like going off topic a little bit.
That's a tough one, right? You can educate them on the benefits of vaccine and the risks of not taking a vaccine. I've seen, but it's really difficult to persuade them to take the vaccine. I think all we can do is show the benefits of it and not taking a vaccine can lead to. I think you have seen this in the last 2-3 years with COVID, more likely. But there are in the U.S. at least there is a sector or population who do not believe in vaccine, and then it's really difficult to change the mindset. Despite having their own family being affected, they still don't believe it. They think it's some kind of government intrusion or something. But it's difficult. So I work for a company, AstraZeneca, right? We developed vaccine for COVID and helped patients. Similarly, Pfizer, both the companies that I work with, are into vaccine and in the company, even in the current company. So we always have these communications put out by our medical affairs team to educate patient populations to take vaccine, to take regular. Even there are scientists who sometimes miss their own schedule of vaccine, thinking that that may not impact. But I don't have a clear answer for you how we can persuade. It's more about education, educating them continuously.
There is another question in the chat from Dineshral Somin. What is the difference between anesthesiologist and nurse anesthetist?
They're difficult words. Yes, anesthesiologist and nurse anesthetist. I mean, first difference is that the different degrees in and of itself, your education is a lot different. Anesthesiologists are going to be studying way more years. They have 4 years of medical school, 4 years of residency, then they go to anesthesia residency, and then plus or minus anesthesia fellowship, and then they become an attending anesthesiologist. So the timeline is different in terms of education. When it comes to responsibilities and roles, it's about the same. It actually really differs state by state. So in most states, a nurse anesthetist must practice under a anesthesiologist, but we pretty much do the same when it comes to patient care. Put people to sleep, wake them up, go to the ICU, take care of them. All the stuff I've already said. Both of us pretty much do the same in terms of patient care. But on paper, most states, anesthesiologists must supervise or kind of work with a nurse anesthetist. Some states like California, nurse anesthetists can work completely independent. So anesthesiologist Devan he then can get away in a hospital. Most of them are small hospital, community hospitals. So that's me.
I have a question for Ganeshta. So, it looks like we have a question in the chat. It says, I heard mRNA technology is a boon for cancer patients, and is that true? And if yes, how good are we treating cancer patients?
Yeah, I think mRNA technology is certainly an advancement in how we are developing vaccines. But in terms of developing cancer treatment, we are still working on it. There's no treatment yet available using mRNA for cancer. Let me make it clear. But there are other modalities, right, which have eliminated cancer. For example, the field that I'm currently is cell therapies, where you take patients' own cell, engineer them, put in a receptor, and then treat the patient. So just by one infusion, you can eradicate the tumor and control that cancer and control it for over a 10-year period. So I think with cell and gene therapy, we are getting there in terms of curing. So mRNA technology could potentially be part of that, armamentarium in terms of eliminating or curing cancer. But it's a great question. For vaccines, we have gotten there, right? Both the Moderna vaccine and the Pfizer vaccine are mRNA based. And I see there's one more question there in terms of our COVID vaccines are rushed. So, the vaccines, as you know, they were developed pretty fast. Unlike other drug development scenarios with vaccines, it's a slightly different approach in terms of developing them. You don't have to go through all the drug discovery aspects that I was mentioning, testing in animals. There is some preclinical testing, but given we already have patients who were infected or the vaccines spread widely, it was easy to test them in the clinical setting. So it was fast tracked in terms of evaluating and getting it to approval. But we still don't know the long-term effect of mRNA. At this point, it's all safe, and hopefully it stays that way. But 10 years down the line, does it impact us? We're not sure.
Okay, Ranjini Bay, if you're still around, I have a question for you. Once you tested positive for COVID, some of our friends said that their eyes became sensitive to sharp lights. Is there any evidence to this?
So yeah, that's really interesting. I have not heard that in terms of COVID. What I have seen from COVID, of course, it's just correlation. We don't know if it was actually caused by COVID, but just areas in the retina that essentially you can see evidence that there was not blood supplied to certain places in the retina. And in terms of other things that have been studied have been actually people who got the COVID vaccines. So I work a lot with cornea transplant patients, and they have a higher chance of rejecting if they have the COVID vaccine. So those are the only two eye-related things that I know and / have been studied in terms of COVID. So not light sensitivity. A lot of time, because light sensitivity is something that can be caused by a ton of different things. It could be something as simple as dry eye. So it could just be if they had COVID and they were taking a lot of nasal decongestants or allergy medicine or anything like that. All of those things basically dry up our body. So you get dry eye from that too. So something as simple as dry eye can cause light sensitivity. And then on the more severe end, if you have inflammation in your eyes, that causes light sensitivity. But no, I haven't heard anything specifically for COVID, but it could just be those other things I was talking about, just when you're sick in general. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Also another question for you, Ranjini Bay. Do carrots really improve eyesight?
So it doesn't hurt, but so it's basically just because of the nutrients in carrots. It's good for the retina. I mean, you find it in a lot of other vegetables too. So I mean, you can definitely keep eating carrots. It's good for your eyes, but it's not it does have benefits for your eyes, yes. But a lot of vegetables do, especially leafy green vegetables, especially.
So I have another question. What drew you to optometry? Like, what did you find really interesting about it?
Yeah, so like I was kind of talking about before, initially, in college, so actually when I was in college, I wanted to go to PA school. And so I was doing all the prereqs for PA school. And I was lucky because they ended up being the same prereqs for optometry, so I didn't have to backtrack. But so even when I was in college, I had friends that wanted to do optometry, and I was like, I've gone to the optometrist all my life. All they do is give me glasses, contacts. It's great, but seems boring. And then during college, I started working in a vision therapy clinic. And so, what vision therapy is, basically, there's so much more to your vision than seeing 20/20. So, you can see 20/20, but your eyes are also coordinating 24/7 together to keep your vision single. Your eyes are focusing all day long, they're moving. And so, those are just three very high overview kind of categories of things that you can rehab with vision therapy. So, you can see 20/20, but if you're seeing double all day long, what do you do about that? And so, in that vision therapy job, I worked a lot with children, like with lazy eye, amblyopia. I worked with adults who had, trauma from stroke, accidents, all that kind of stuff, traumatic brain injuries. And so that was a really, really cool field of optometry. And I loved that vision therapy. And I was really interested in that. And so I actually got into optometry school because I wanted to do that. And then in my fourth year, I rotated through like a disease, like a referral center. And I just saw the full scope that they were practicing. I mean, diagnosing all sorts of things, being able to prescribe everything, and just really practicing at the fullest medical scope. And that when I did that rotation, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I kind of changed my mind, and then I did a residency in disease.
I have a question for Ganesh Mama. So, what are good starting jobs in the pharmacy industry?
Good starting jobs. Right. I think it really depends on what you want to do and what degree you have, right? So if you have a biology degree and you want to or if you have a computational degree and you want to become a computational oncologist, so there are multiple opportunities. So maybe I can start off. I mean, is there any specific question? Because that's a very broad question. But regardless, you can enter into multiple areas, either in drug discovery or preclinical. If you are interested in, if you are an engineering candidate, and if you're interested in quantitative analysis, you can go into statistics or data science type of roles where we apply machine learning and AI to solve some of the drug discovery questions or development questions. But what I would suggest is often trying to figure out what is it that you would what you enjoy most of the time, right? Do you enjoy computational type of role? Do you enjoy working with people? Do you enjoy working on the bench? So if you figure that out, that will help you where you want to land in that spectrum of the roles that I mentioned, whether it's drug discovery or clinical type of role. But there are many opportunities, so that's why I think you just have to figure out where is it that you enjoy most. What is it that you enjoy most doing? And if you have the right background, whether it's chemistry, who can go become a chemist; pharmacology, who can become pharmacologist; if you are a medic, you can go and become a clinical lead. So there are different roles, and for every role, you start as an entry level, and then you gain experience working as an individual contributor, and then go on increasing, advancing your career as you go up the ladder. I know it's not a very straightforward answer, but let me know if I have to give more details on it. Yeah.
I was just asking that question kind of like in a general type of setting, so you don't need to say anything else. That was a good answer.
Okay.
So actually I have a question for Ganesha. So you said that you didn't get into medical school. So what drew you to like going to pharmacy school? Was it like, were you already having it in mind before, or were you decided to try it out?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So certainly I was interested in being in the medical field. And for me, the option then became, okay, pharmacy, you can go into physiotherapy, you can go into nursing. And then I kind of ruled out nursing, I ruled out physiotherapy, and I thought studying about medicine is where I like. So I went into pharmacy, and I also talked to one of my relative who was one of the assistant professor in another pharmacy school. So they gave me some suggestion on, okay, why don't you take it up? You have multiple career opportunities, because after a pharmacy school you can go into industry, or you can go and do back in India you can become the marketing person selling the products to the physician, or you can pursue higher career. So there were a few options for me to consider. So I took the risk. Honestly, I didn't know exactly how I would land. I said pharmacy is not a too bad of a job. I like medicine, going into medicine, so I took it. So I didn't have a very long term vision on where I would go with that, but things fall in place as you go on. That's what one of my guidance to you all, the youth, is that don't think long term, because the field changes. Think few years down the line, what is that interests you, and go after it, and then things fall back or fall in place. Yeah. At least I was clear that I didn't want to go into engineering, so that narrowed down some of my options. Yeah.
So I have a question for sort of all three of you. And recently with COVID-19 and all, how has it really affected your guys' jobs, all being in medicine?
Yeah, I can start. It really was a big, it really affected my job because in anesthesia you are basically the master of airways. You manage airway management during surgery. You put breathing tubes in, and when someone has COVID, it primarily affects the lungs. So for the longest time, I mean, everybody kind of knew, but a lot of elective surgeries, so surgeries that are not emergency or cancer related, were canceled for a while. So our workload went down, but that meant that we also needed to help other parts of the hospital that was really impacted, like the intensive care units. And so I was in school for nurse anesthesia at the peak of COVID, but a lot of us had to, a lot of the CRNAs and nurse anesthetists had to go into the ICU and do ventilator management. I did have a lot of patients who needed surgery and also had COVID, so I gowned up, put on my N95, my hazmat kind of suit thing, and did surgery for them. I also had to go into the ICU and do emergency intubations on COVID patients, which is really scary because they're really sick and decompensating, and their lungs are failing. And when you're placing a breathing tube in, it really hits you emotionally because you really don't know if that breathing tube ever came out and if they ever survived. So mentally, it was hard. Emotionally, after some days, it was getting really exhausting. But things are looking a lot better now. Hospital's back to a great census and great back to what we would normally do in an operating room and do all our surgeries like we always have done. So things are coming back to normal. But yeah, that was what happened during my career.
Yeah, so during the peak of COVID, I was also in school. So I wasn't out in the clinic during, that time. But I think similar to what Divya was saying, because I work where we're a surgical center as well. We have our own ASC, and we're doing surgeries, and a lot of the elective surgeries, because they were postponed, now we have such a high volume of surgery, even though it's been, a year or two, we're so backlogged with surgeries. And then, on top of that, I think similar to a lot of places, our clinic is short staffed. I mean, where I work, it's a huge clinic system. And we're so short staffed, and just having that high volume backlogged onto us. I mean, being in healthcare, it is stressful. I mean, the patients, because we're short staffed and because we're so backlogged, I mean, sometimes they're waiting hours to see me or to see one of my colleagues. And everyone, obviously, they think they're the most important person in the clinic. They think they're the most important patient, and obviously you have to treat them that way too. But I feel like, especially because of COVID, it's just more stressful right now, and I don't think a lot of people realize that that impact, especially when you do have patients that, emergency or not, I mean, they've been waiting forever. And then by the time they get to you, they're angry, they're frustrated, they don't know why, they can't see, whatever it is. And, they're taking it out on you. They're being not so pleasant to you. And they don't realize, like, you haven't had lunch, like you haven't, had water, all of that. So I think just, I think it gets better, but just being in healthcare, that's already kind of the way it is. And then COVID just kind of ramped it up a little bit. So, but I think it's getting better. And I think when staffing improves, all of that improves. But for me, at least, the short staff was the main impact that I saw.
Yeah, and for me, I don't see patients directly, like Divya or Anjani. For us as an industry, COVID did impact, it slowed down patients participating in clinical trials. So what that means is that the drug development took longer, right? If we had to, because patients were infected with COVID and the healthcare workers were impacted, we couldn't enroll patients into clinical trials. and patients who had cancer weren't getting the benefit that they would have gotten if they were in the clinical trial. So that slowed down the process, that impacted how we do clinical trials. It obviously impacted how we think about our jobs in terms of, we all went into work. We were not able to go into work. We were working remotely. I moved companies completely remotely. So that part of the things changed differently. But in terms of me directly being impacted, I would say not to the extent that Ranjani and Divya were mentioning, because we don't have direct interaction with the patients. The way we interact with the patients is through our investigators who run the clinical trial, so they could relay the similar stories that both Divya and Ranjani had told us. Yeah.
And just to add, it was hard. Also, I think like even though it seemed terrible, everything that was happening, but I went to work every day, and I wasn't isolated at home like many other people were. And so I actually had like an opportunity to socialize during work and socialize with my workers and my coworkers, and that kept me a little sane. At the same time, if I was stuck at home working from home, I think I would go insane. I don't know about everybody else. um, but at the same time, I had to be very careful on who I came home to. When I commuted from my parents' house, I would come home and like put my clothes straight into like a separate pile of laundry. I would like have a separate sanitization like station at home. It was like a very strange environment, but I would be like super grateful that like I would still be able to like see people and have human interaction, which is something we all really need in life. So it wasn't all terrible. There was some parts that I take really as a grateful part of my job.
So another question for Divya, like related to this. So you said you had to do a lot of like different things. Like, did you have to do anything new? Like, you have to go outside and like scope of practice. Like, did you have to like learn any new skills when like COVID hit?
I think that's where um that's a really good question. I would be very firm and very clear about my roles and responsibilities, because I work under a license, like all medical professionals. And when you work under a license, everything that you do is under scrutiny. So it is either charted somewhere, um, and you basically have to back up everything that you do. Like, I know this sounds scary, but in a court of law, if something happened really scary and a bad outcome happened for a patient, I have to know the evidence behind why I did what I did, and back up my actions. And so if I do something out of my scope of practice, my license is on the line. And so during COVID, I was my coworkers and we were very strict on like um what we know what we're allowed to do, and so we would stick with our roles and responsibilities and not go outside of it, because that can be pretty scary if something goes wrong.
Were you asked to do like things outside your scope of practice?
No, because I think management would shut that down immediately, and we had really good support.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions, comments? Anybody in the audience? Speak now. I guess.
I want to kind of give a quick vote of thanks for everybody here. Monkaila or the team different industry more there's some sort of a connection to against Sam Mushkulaisi. So we have a pharma drug formulation from scratch, building the whole thing through the pipeline. Early avata at the Divya win full deploy karta thing going to the patients going to. And then Ranjani also along the same lines, on all sides, as he look at they coming together, it's like amazing. It's I don't know how it happened, but thanks to me, I've been associated with my karta. Juku Chokalawasi. Any last thoughts from the youth? I want to.
There is a last minute question by Kumaresh Mama. Can vision therapy be used to get rid of reading glasses?
So if you are older and that is why you're needing reading glasses, that's something called presbyopia. And that is just your inability to focus, age related. So for that, no. So usually, around maybe early mid 40s, people start to lose that ability to focus, and that age related loss, no, vision therapy can't do anything about that. There's really nothing you can do but wear reading glasses, or some kind of corrective surgery. Sometimes there are kids that have focusing issues, or there's multiple reasons, but sometimes children will have reading glasses that they wear, that you can eliminate the need for that with vision therapy.
The open panel, the questions or comments.
DC మీరు పోతారయ్యా event was really educational, I believe, for all the kids on the call. daskidanga ಒಂದು ಐಡಿಯಾ ಬಿರಹವಾಯ್ ಅತ ಇಲ್ಲ ಒಂಟೆ ಚಾನಲ್ ಸತ ಇಲ್ಲ ಮಾದರಿ ಸತ engineering medical ಇಲ್ಲ ಮಾದರಿ ರಹಾತ. Oh, there are other opportunities also available, other career opportunities available, and most of them can start from the basics of what they love, like biology, like pre-med, thermometry, to be to a career we diverge karwai and have a different career opportunities set them. And manata, this one was very educational. Chuku thanks coordinate karataga and all the youth coordinators who helped for this, and everybody who participated in this, and the contributors to me to experience share kalaya chuku santoshonka. Thank you from Sourashtra Association.
Thank you very much. Juku, thanks to me aski kartaguchi. Illa mari dusra ideas tum kaidi oda samnadi. To the panelists specifically, tunga connection hai VR hai. So illa mamli dusra kaidi tunga ideas samnadi share kala tamnadi sangua. Our youth avino specifically la puse healthcare mo and kai career hai mata juku melle. Stay healthy. I mean, you wanted to have this. Plus, last year, Divya, I think you contributed on a speaker series. So, thank you very much for last year plus this year. Continuing the continued contribution to help policy. It's all part of a journey for youth to go to the next level, right? So, aski high school rim satino, college career choices kona kanta martava. Levino pura journey avin share kala tamamu juku helpful gansata. Not only that, plus parents believe the parents also are trying to steer them into a certain way. So I mean, we have to discuss a bit more. Maybe next time we have a chance. We phase 2 gun kiruvaidalla. So I think parents also need guidance, right? So to help you to kind of aim with them, or how to deal at that time, right? So Telamli will help them involved. Yeah. So these are ideas, but yeah, we are open to all new ideas and everything else. Youth committee, Mavino, you guys are welcome to speak at any time. I mean, Sundays 5 p.m. Central Lavino youth meetings from here. So we do invite special guests to come and speak. So Tala even you're welcome to join. Okay, and that goes to all parents. Obviously, we are an open youth committee, so it's open to who wants to join and hands with the association initiatives. I mean, Chuku welcome Kardiya. We are giving service hours to all youth volunteers. On top of it, parents Tengavin help can organize they can get service hours for their employers. So Aditi Mari, it does help parents and adults who are also trying to do some services to our community, right? So especially the event aski Sourashtra ಮತ್ತೆ ಹಚ್ಕೋಪಯಿಸಿ very well done. Chocolate. Any other thoughts? Otherwise, we'll wrap up a couple of minutes early.
DC మీ వెంకటేష్ సతార్యా
Awesome.
సో ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಯಾನಲ್ ಅವರ ಗೆಸ್ಟ್ ಅವರಾತನು ಸೊ ಪಿಲ್ಲಲ್ ಅವಿ ತೆಂಗ ಅಂಗಡಿ ಉನ ಕನೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಬ್ರಹಣ ನಿನಗದಿ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸ್ ಅನ ತೆಂಗ ಅವಿ ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್ ಕಳಗಿ ತೆಂಗ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅದ ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್ ಅವರಿ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಕೊಲ್ಲ ಮಾರಿ ಮಾಡರೇಟ್ ಕರರಿಯ ಸೊ ಲಗಾವಿ ಅದ ಗೆಸ್ಟ್ ಅವರಾತನ್ ಬ್ರೋ ಉಂಡ ಥಾಮ್ available can set a fill future and connect
so my contact information save kararia so we would add them to our Discord channel only add kartamna ready semi so we can share the Discord link with the panelists and then also WhatsApp group karne sata so we do have contacts so Divya, Ranjani, Ganesh, you guys our youth network you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, so I'm not into Discord and stuff, but yeah, you have my email ID and phone number, and feel free to reach out. Happy to talk to you about any career opportunities or any guidance. But yeah, and if you want me to talk more about anything else, happy to do so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Ganesh, so me biology chodaya India mo. So pilalavi jukkudenga ella una questions setesi actual gan computer science ni computer related work jukkudene karri al tenga pilalavi tella jada dusre chodari amna parents on attention order yes so atura maridenu sete okay pilal hal vata irtam sai madak sadage tella una comfort avashyangande.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To me, if anybody wants to talk to me, I'm happy. Biology, that's what I said. More idea, the intent was to show the opportunities because oftentimes people think only certain disciplines can get into pharma. But even if you have engineering, you can go into pharma. But if you have biologist degree, that takes you, and there's so many opportunities. You can become a discovery biologist, then it can be CEO here. They become an entrepreneur. They become CEO immediately with the idea, just like in the IT field. So there are so many opportunities. It's just that not many people are aware of that. So happy to talk about it more.
Yeah. Ganesh, since this is for youth, tenga kaidi intern opportunities raya. Telamari intern opportunities khub rikarta hamangarwai.
Yeah.
Pharma industry.
Yeah, there are internal opportunities. Every company has the opportunities, and we may aware under linked ideas. For example, few examples say so people can start doing internship right from bachelor's. Even high school pharma opportunities at the internship summer, which is non-paid for high school students. It's they come and spend few hours every week in the laboratory, understand high school students. So right from the high school, you can apply for internship. Other bachelor's and master's, there are many internship opportunities. Data science, biology, chemistry. Every pharma company, they put an advertisement usually around December timeframe. Or sometimes in January, February, and then they hire the interns. So even my own department, we had 5 interns this year, 5 interns last year, but there was one master student, but most of them that come to our group are PhDs, so PhD students. But even master students can come into. But there are other those departments that people can go with bachelor's. For example, manufacturing internship karwai, bachelor's students can go there. So there are a lot of opportunities, and they also pay well. I mean, internship goes from somewhere between $30 to $40 per hour per team basis, but still it's a pretty good salary for a month. So, I mean, Linkavi, at least I just gave you more company, my ex-employers and my current employers, but every pharma has similar opportunities.
चुको धन्नो शेयर कर लेते हैं
Okay. So we'll wrap up the event right now. Chuku, thank you again. We'll meet again soon and appreciate everybody's time. Take care.
चुको धन्नो बाय
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.